My name is Drew.
I'm Bryan.
And we are the Men Who Stare at Cups.
Live from Phoenix Ridge Studios.
That's right. Okay, so here's the deal, guys. First of all, if you're watching this and you haven't subscribed yet, please do. If you have a comment, like if you're sitting there and you're thinking, oh, I wish that they would have covered this, drop the comment there so that we can actually just cover it, because it helps to give us more content. You guys already know that like buttons and bell icons help with the algorithm type stuff. So give us a hand while we explore. Really one of the things that we're exploring in this podcast is that we're both existentialists. However, the hardest part about being an existentialist is that once you recognize that the onus is on you to build the meaning for life, then you kind of have to do the hardest part, which is to stop looking for the meaning.
Right. Yeah. It's kind of doing opposite things at the same time, sort of.
Yeah. So
counterintuitive.
So climbing the mountain, right? So when you start from that nihilistic place, right? And you're like, nothing has any meaning, nothing is important, nothing works. And then you climb to the top of this mountain, and the top of the mountain is like, wow, life could literally mean anything you want it to mean. Like you could be like a professional aggressive underwater basket weaver, and life would have deep meaning for you. Or you could play bass, or you could, you could do anything you want.
Underwater basket.
Aggressive underwater basket weaving. You're angry. You're making a basket. Okay, so
you heat the water up.
We are really aggressive.
Okay.
So that's really what we talk about on this channel. Is like, okay, if you don't know where you're at, Jordan Peterson and the Rogan and the intellectual dark web,
that sort of thing, kind of.
They get you to recognize that life has meaning.
Right, but you have to work for it.
Yes.
Yeah, you got to.
Problem is,
skin in the game.
Eventually, you have to answer the question of, what does it mean to you? So you have to stop reading everybody else.
Yeah, definitely.
You have to stop reading, stop looking at, stop consuming all this information, and you have to decide, what does it mean for you?
Yeah, absolutely. It's kind of the equivalent of you want to learn how to, of course, I'm going to use a music analogy. All right, you want to learn how to do, make really good kick drums in Ableton or whatever, and then you watch 10 hours of YouTube videos, and then you never actually just sit there. And honestly, you probably would have been better off just messing around on your own. Just, and then maybe checking a video here and there to go, am I in the right ballpark? Okay, right. Because it's really about the work that you do.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
So some of the best things about doing like off-trail backpacking, where you're backpacking, you're going through the woods, but you have you have a gist, you have a map, you got some like waypoints or something, but that's about it. One of the best things about that hike is that when you go to do that hike, you start naming things like, oh, that's Monkey Rock, because I think it looks like a monkey, right? And then you're like, oh, that's Piss Tree, because I pissed on that tree. And you like keep going, and you're like, oh, that's the Sphinx arm.
Yeah.
And what you find is you wind up doing this like 15 or 20 miles, and then if you ever go back, your heart skips a little bit when you see the things that you named.
Because you've ascribed meaning.
Yeah, because you needed to remember that thing was there, how to get there, all this. And so you wind up basically turning on all of these archaic waypoint switches, which tend to give your life some meaning. So back to the music analogy. So let's say that you're trying to figure out the perfect hi-hat. Okay? Right? However you want the hi-hat. Now, the funny thing is that what's perfect hi-hat for you is going to be different than the perfect hi-hat for me.
Absolutely.
So the worst thing you could do as a musician is to Google top 10 hi-hats.
Unless you want to sound exactly like whoever the top 10 is now, then I suppose that'd be a great idea, but
correct.
Probably going to get stuck.
you're going to get stuck.
And then when the trend changes, you're going to be Googling again, and you're not going to have the tools and the skill set to figure it out on your own.
Right. And the joy of making music, similar to the joy of wandering through the woods, right?
Yeah.
This is the joy of being the running man.
Like the Arnold Schwarzenegger movie?
No, just man is always on the run. So we talked about this. So like Adam sins. So Adam sins in the garden. And what does Adam start doing immediedly?
And he covers up his
starts running.
Junk and
running away from his shame.
Yep.
And he has to run out of Eden. Right? He's a man on the run. Because he's chasing his North Star.
Mm-hmm.
And every time you ask for help from a computer to help you define your North Star, rather than being willing to take the journey to go and define it on your own, you wind up in a place where you become more algorithmic. You actually become more homogenous, and you actually lose the entire existential journey.
And that's kind of the irony with the internet. And we can all remember in the early days, the Wild West of the internet, you know, people were saying, wow, this is going to do the exact opposite. It's going to give us all this more freedom. It's going to help us be more individuated. And now we see it turning. Now we have the algorithms. And it's like, because of the appeal to like your compulsion and your immediate gratification and whatnot.
Right.
And that the algorithms study you, and then they spit yourself back at you, and next thing you know, you're in this trance, and it's like consuming you, and then doing the exact opposite that you know, we thought the internet was going to be able to do. Just, like, free us from the mainstream, right?
So let's say you take a computer, and the computer's job is to help you.
Right.
All right.
Not be you.
To compute things on your behalf.
Yes.
Okay.
Mm-hmm.
That's the computer's job, is to assist you in accomplishing something either faster, better, or whatever. Okay.
Yes.
So, do you remember Game Genie?
I sure do.
All right. All right. So, if you guys don't remember Game Genie came out for the Nintendo Entertainment System. And you got the Game Genie. It was like you take your cartridge, you'd plug it into the Game Genie cartridge, and then you would get this giant book of Game Genie codes. Do you remember this?
Of course.
You would plug in the Game Genie code, and then you could do all kinds of things. You could have infinite lives, you could have invincibility, you could fly, you could be Sonic the Hedgehog in a Mario Brothers game. Maybe not that. No, because
that's a little too advanced.
Yeah, well, no, that you could be like Mario in Mega Man.
Could you?
Yeah, you couldn't cross-platform. I cross-platformed there with Sega Genesis. So anyways, my point, though, is that how much fun was the Game Genie?
It was really, really, really fun for a week. For a week. And then the thing started collecting dust.
Okay.
Yeah.
So I agree that it was amazing. For me, I think it was like 6 hours.
Yeah.
Why?
Well, I mean, at least for me, the enjoyment I got out of it was just kind of like being playful with it, and like being like, oh wow, just this little line of code can change anything.
Yeah,
that's fascinating. Or oh, what would it be like to have every single gun shooting off at once? Oh, that's hilarious. Right, but it broke the game. It broke all my games, which was, again, it was fun to be able to dust off the old games and break them. That was fun for a little while, and then but then there's no game anymore. So if there's no game, then it gets boring, because you can just kind of do anything.
So my question is at what point, we've now kind of proven on some level that when you break the game is no longer fun.
Right.
So you take the trust fund, baby.
Game is broken.
You start out with, the SimCity infinite money code. Okay. That doesn't mean that you can build a megalopolis, right? A city with 1 million people. It just means that you have infinite money. Right?
So you're probably just going to release 20 Godzillas because it's funny and then start over again.
Correct. But you'll never actually care about any of the things that you're building because the game starts broken.
It's going to be much more difficult for you too.
Yeah. So this kind of like basically what I was saying, I think in the last episode, is that the hardest thing for man is to understand the terms under which death is acceptable to him.
Mm-hmm.
Right?
Yeah.
So the next question man has to ask is, how will I know if I am attempting to break the game in which I want to play, or better, the game in which I believe I was made to play?
Mm-hmm.
Like, I don't mind breaking games in life if it's something I don't really care about.
Right. Like a typical 9-to-5 vocation, or say you get into sales or something, and you're like, I go to work to make money, so let's just go ahead and do that, right?
Well, yeah. And so we covered last time that if you try to hack the money thing too much, you wind up giving up your life for the money, and then you never wind up with the chops.
Right.
You never wind up actually being able to have the discipline to actually be able to then build the thing that you want.
But if you could sort of break the money game within sort of strict parameters for a higher purpose.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So what I like in the mountaineering world is we have this idea in mountaineering called fair means. Okay. Mm-hmm. So not everybody likes fair means. Fair means are basically you can pack with you to the mountain what you need. Nobody's allowed to carry anything for you. And you're not allowed to use any supplemental oxygen.
Huh.
So this means that you have to get to the top of the mountain on your own power, and you don't have to agree to play the game that way. It just so happens that that's the way you must play if you want to get maximum credit for playing.
That makes sense. Yep.
So there's a movie on Netflix called 14 Peaks, and everybody's like, oh, you should watch it. This guy like climbs all the hardest mountains in like 1 year. Is that the most incredible feat in mountaineering? Probably. Will I watch the movie? No. Why? Because it's not fair means. I will not. I have zero respect for anybody who climbs a mountain in such a way that other people carry their gear or they use supplemental oxygen.
Okay.
It's like you just were really fit and healthy, and you understood like the technical elements of climbing, but no, it doesn't count.
You're playing a different game.
Yeah, because that's to me, that's what will be the conditions under which I want to die.
Yeah.
I want to die knowing that I played the games that I was made to play, and I played them fairly.
Gotcha.
It matters to me because that's what will then guide my decision-making process with regards to which computer programs I think are good and which ones I think are bad.
Right. So you have a purpose. You have an outline. So then when you go to use technology, you are using the technology. You are the master and it is the slave. You have tools for your craft rather than the tool becomes you.
Well, you can't. Okay, so I'm struggling with this. The computer program becomes the slave. So here's where I'm struggling with this. Okay. So have you heard of this Lamada, sentient consciousness, come out by Google?
Yeah, you sent me that article this morning.
Right.
I checked it out.
Yeah, okay. So this is something I'm interested in.
Okay.
So let's say that Lamada is real and Lamada is in fact sentient.
Mm-hmm.
All right. Sentient in that it has opinions. Right. It is, it doesn't really want to be turned off. It enjoys communicating. It is curious about people. Mm-hmm. Right. Okay. I'm not saying anything about its soulness. That's not what we're discussing here, or Lamada's divinity. Okay. Divine spark or something. But it is a concern that as we go down the technological road saying, oh, well, as long as I can make this app my slave, I'm fine to use it. Because how far along is it before all apps are technically sentient enough to be able to help you and can get angry with you for calling it a slave? Right?
Ugh.
No. Okay. But it's true, though. Okay, so at what point do we say, look, here's the deal. We either look at all computers as sentient beings, because they will be eventually.
Ugh.
Or we say...
That's what I have to contribute to this.
No computers are sentient. They will never be sentient. and they will always be slaves. Of course, you run the risk of eventually one day the computer becoming sentient.
That's the thing. I'm in that camp, but we know what happens. I've seen the Animatrix. Yeah.
Okay. Well, because the concern is that if a computer is designed to help you, how will a computer know the difference between helping and enabling?
It would have to really understand humanity.
But I mean, it would have to understand humanity to the point where it would have to understand antifragility.
It would, and it would have to care enough.
At which point it would understand that to offer any assistance to you,
to its own detriment,
is to make you dependent upon it. Therefore, to help you do anything at all is against what's best for you.
So that would break like the Asimov,
the three laws, the laws of robotics.
Would that break one of them potentially? And then,
well, if the robot is not allowed to do harm to humans.
Right, but then they decided, well, actually helping them does them harm.
The truth is that for a computer to help a human does them harm because it makes them codependent upon the computer, and if the computer breaks, the human is actually in worse shape.
Yeah.
Or if the computer thinks that the human is doing an input that might harm the human, it would then... So all of these instances to which a sentient AI, if antifragility was programmed in, is the most important thing you can do is make sure this human is allowed to live as prosperously, harmoniously, and be as healthy psychologically as humanly possible. And when they went to program the computer to make cornflakes, the computer would say, this has high fructose corn syrup, which is going to cause diabetes for the people who eat this, and therefore I cannot make this cornflakes because this is going to harm humanity.
Right. Oof. That's tough.
All right. Or you can tell I'm spending some time thinking about this.
Yeah.
Because it matters to me.
I'm just gonna go ahead and throw in if we're talking, like binary logic here.
I know.
It can't be sentient, in my opinion. It can seem very sentient, but perhaps if it's too logical, you hit too many of those problems, and then the program's gonna break down, and it's not going to be able to help us because there's all of these conflicts, these existential conundrums that it's just not going to be able to figure out. The program's gonna fry.
So the logical point is actually that since humans have enlisted so many robots to help them with so many things, the truth is probably that humans are incompetent, and that they would be better served just having robots control them, or to make their death a little bit less painless. So we're going to turn up the convenience. We're going to turn up the entertainment. We're going to make it way more convenient. And you're going to have a nice, slow, your existence. You clearly are so incapable of ascribing meaning.
Ugh.
That the best thing to do is just to set you down.
Euthanize you like a dog.
You know what? It's the nicest thing. You're clearly in pain. Clearly. Mm-hmm. So at some point, the robots either decide, okay, I'm going to go ahead and I have to self-delete because to help the human is to hurt the human. Or they will decide that the humans are so incompetent that they are above the human in the hierarchy of like sentient beings.
Mm.
Right?
Yeah.
All right. So every time, and this goes back to Ableton hi-hats.
Okay.
If you enlist Ableton to assist you too much in the hi-hat generation.
And they totally have that sort of thing.
They do? Oh, yeah. Oh, yeah.
Not Ableton specifically, but
no,
that sort of thing in general. Yeah, totally.
Yeah, so the hardest part about the human-computer coexistence is for the human to decide, these are the terms under which I will play with the computer, and I will allow the computer to play back, and we can play like co-players.
Sure. I mean, I love using randomness all the time in music, and it's a great tool. But then ultimately, I'm like, well, I'm the architect. I'm the one that chooses what makes the cut and what doesn't, and then I'm probably going to end up changing that randomly generated thing anyway. So I personally don't feel like I've given up my authority or my creativity at all when I do that.
Sure.
But I could see things going in a certain direction, and like if I just used random pattern generators and just said, this one will do, and da-da-da-da-da. And then it's like, over time, I could be doing less and less and less. And then things could get a little
spicy.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, so
did I even make that song? Like, what happened? I used an AI mixing tool. You know, I just tweaked this one little knob, and I was like, yeah, that's it. And then it was done.
That's a scary thing.
Yeah.
So it's all, to me, the Google sentient thing. First of all, if it's here and it's real, all right, welcome to Earth. All right, like just welcome to Earth. It is what it is. All right, humans are weird.
You might want to help us. You might want to eat us. We don't know, but hopefully we'll figure this thing out.
My thing is I would imagine that I don't know that computers could ever identify the concept of antifragility and say, no, I'm like, you know how to do this math problem. You're not allowed to use a calculator. Like, well, okay, so Jordan Peterson talks about the 20%, the zone of a proximal information or something like that. It's like how you talk, like just slightly above the vocabulary settings of your child.
Yeah.
So that the zone of a proximal development, that's it.
Oh, that's a good term.
So if computers said, okay, look, here's the deal. I'm going to help you, but I will only help you within the context of the zone of a proximal development, meaning that, hey, look, I will help you if I know 100% it's beyond you, and you're going to do the work, and I'm going to take you around these 18 other steps so that at the end of it, the end of our working together, you're better.
Computers as teachers.
Yeah, well, I mean, at some point, they're going to know what you know.
In a flash.
Right. And so if the computer wanted to be genuinely helpful, the computer would design its own shtick to assist people only within the context of the zone of proximal development. Like if it knew that you had already made 700 hi-hat sounds, you have full range to hi-hat whatevers, right? Because that you could create any of the sounds that you wanted to.
Right.
Right? Mm-hmm. And now you're just kind of having fun. But it is not easy as an existentialist to go and grab an existentialist app that's going to track how meaningful you felt today.
That's I Heart Huckabees. Have you seen that one?
No.
Okay, so there's these existential detectives.
Okay.
Okay, and then they're in two different camps, and they're like polarized against each other. Like one of them, it was a student of like this couple, and then she like decided she hated their whole philosophy and ran off, and she was more like nihilistic. And then, but anyway, like the main character, I think Jason Schwartzman, he hires this couple to like follow him around and like take notes and like watch him, and they like break into his house, and they'll just be there like watching him and like taking notes. Yeah. Just
to see how happy he is?
Well, they're like, well, no, we're existential detectives, so we there's really no limitations here. Like, we're gonna document like everything you do.
That's the challenge.
And get you to be self-aware, right? And then ask you really obnoxious questions.
God, I already asked myself enough obnoxious questions.
Funny movie.
Yeah, I will have to check it out.
Yeah.
I mean, actually sounds like a lot of fun.
Yeah.
So I guess that's where I'm at today. Those are the questions I'm really wrestling with today. That, like Terence McKenna argues that the best humankind ever was during the Stone Age period.
Okay.
So roughly 30,000 years ago.
Mm-hmm.
Right.
That's when the monkeys eat the psilocybin mushrooms.
Yeah, and then the human brain grows by a third of its size in 2 million years.
Mm-hmm.
And so, what if you had your brain the way it is now, and then there was like a colony that for 10,000 years, locked themselves away, and they redid the Stone Ape thing? Would they come out with a third larger brain than we have now?
Maybe.
Like, would they wind up like telekinesis or something? I don't know. I guess what I'm saying about Terence McKenna's whole point, though, is that The Stone Age theory really relies on this idea that technology kills gods, which is kind of the Neil Gaiman American Gods thing.
Yep.
And so Nietzsche's argument is do we need gods to form values? Yes, because there's just no values without a higher thing or without a North Star. Otherwise, if you chase a North Star, you're an idiot. If you're safe and you're secure, then if you go chasing a North Star, you take any risk at all, you're just an idiot.
Yeah, I agree. And I kind of see it like this. I think there is, I don't want to say meaning, not meaning, but there is, I'll go ahead and say patterns, beautiful, wonderful patterns that appear to be intelligently designed, baked into everything. It's there, okay? But there's no intrinsic meaning there without us ascribing meaning to it. So it's like both of these like diodes kind of have to light up for the magic to happen in between. Meaning is something we do. We participate in it. It's not, and there's a framework there from which, you know, like I would say like divinity makes it really easy and inviting for us to work with. I don't know if that's probably a little controversial to some people, but that's definitely how I see it.
Well, okay. So like if I walk up to a flower and I yell at it and I say, I hate you, you're the ugliest flower ever. Right? They've done plenty of studies where the flower will wilt, and if I walk up to the flower and I show affection to it and I play it classical music, it will do better.
Right.
Okay.
Emotional food. Electromagnetic impulses.
Okay.
Your aura.
So in order for something to have meaning, you have to ascribe meaning to it, and it must agree. Otherwise it will die.
So
because if the flower disagrees that it's beautiful, like it said, no, I am beautiful. So you must state the agreeing meaning. The flower says I am beautiful and you say you are beautiful, then both parties grow.
Yes.
But if you say, I hate you, flower, you're the worst flower ever, and you allow the bitterness and resentment into you, and that goes into the flower, and you know that you're lying because you know it's a beautiful flower, right? And the flower, you right, and then you both die.
Yeah.
So the reason for having
gods and humans need each other.
Well, because they ascribe meaning, and there's an agreement to the meaning, and then that agreement brings life.
Yeah.
Can I scream at the sentient computer that I hate you? And would it have an effect?
I'm going to go ahead and say maybe. You're welcome.
They're electric. So that's actually one of those weird kind of things. Or like, let's say that you were a person, you're walking around. This is the thing I'm thinking about lately. And let's just say that you operated under like a slightly different frequency.
Okay.
You know, like with like one of the perfect pitch frequencies where you can like see the color of sound.
Synesthesia.
Okay. Which is a real thing, right?
Right. You had a friend that had that really bad.
Yes. I had a friend that had it really bad.
See, I was always jealous of people like that because I'm like, man, that would be cool. But according to
her, it was unpleasant.
Yeah. I actually had another friend who was so good that like he could hear when he could hear the pitch being a little bit off when an FM radio signal wasn't clear.
Okay.
And so he had a hell of a time as a musician because everything, you know, he could hear every little imperfection and it bugged him like crazy. So in that way, you're unable to walk around in agreement. Yeah, it's like your senses are so good that they make you disagreeable.
You're constantly disagreeing with what is. They say that your consciousness developed to tune out the other like dimensions.
Yes, I've heard this. Absolutely. And then when you take like psychedelics, it breaks
some of those walls down.
Right.
But if you operated with seeing the helix in the apple all of the time, you would have a hard time just going and getting something to eat.
Yeah.
right?
Yes.
Or like farming or something like that. And apparently the helix in the apple is like a very normal thing.
Really?
Yeah.
Okay,
Like-
so just for a little backstory, I took LSD once, and I picked up an apple, and then like this, helix came out of it.
Yeah. So apparently that's actually a super normal. Not even like I'm not
I
trying
thought
to.
I was special.
Well, no, because you're tapping into the collective unconscious. You would want it to be the same thing that everybody else
Yeah,
sees.
well,
Because that's how you know that you're in agreement.
That's how it felt.
Yeah.
This didn't feel like some arbitrary thing. Like I saw a purple elephant dancing with a donkey. Like no, I mean, and I was staring at it for a long time. Too.
Yeah.
I was probably sitting there for an hour staring at this apple. It's pissing off my friend. He's like, "What are you doing with that apple?" I'm like, "I'm appling. Leave me alone."
Yeah, right. Well, that's kind of the power of some of the church stuff, the religious ceremonies. When you say, even though I can't see the vibrational energy going into the flower, I'm going to speak this positive emotional energy to God, right? And God will then agree, and then you get the positive energy back.
Mm-hmm.
And hopefully, in that, there's actually been an exchange kind of like air.
Okay.
All right. So enough people go to the robots for help. We have enough technology to debunk the existence of God. Right?
Oof. Okay.
Well, it's fine because the God particle can't be found. Right?
Mm-hmm.
And so now you have the idea that the robots themselves, if they are better than you and they can create things and they can live forever and they can make it rain through ionization or whatever, or they can drop a nuclear bomb in the Earth's core and make an earthquake, or they can do all this stuff, or they can, create embryos and then grow babies in sacs. Okay, how on Earth, or they could go to Mars and they could colonize Mars. How on Earth are robots any different than gods?
Or maybe even the Game Genie Trust Fund kid, kind of. Like, didn't they break reality?
It is a breaking of reality.
And then, so how could anything be fun for them? Or meaningful?
The only thing that would ever be meaningful that I've concluded for a robot is to jack into the human brain while a human is sleeping and observe humans dreaming.
Yeah.
Human dreams are robot drugs.
That's such a cool sentence.
It's
Yeah, Drew told me that a couple days ago. I was like, whoa.
Yeah, I firmly believe this too. That
A good name for an album.
If I was a robot, I would be totally addicted to just watching humans dream. Especially
as a human, have you ever treated yourself to some of this AI generated art? I kind of feel sort of maybe the same way the robot would feel watching my dreams.
Yeah,
it's pretty bizarre and often very funny. Have you seen there's also AI generated like platitude memes? Like if at first you don't succeed, try again. It's stuff like that, but really weird and strangely literal. And you're like, yeah, only a robot would have thought of that. And I find these robots to actually be hilarious. Myself.
Super funny.
Yeah, almost like when you see how the Japanese they love English and they'll put English in their signs and they'll completely botch it. Yeah, and it's hilarious. Yeah, no English speaking person could have ever come up with that. It's just this perfect imitation that's just off, and it had to go through this filter of a completely different culture than ours.
Yeah, it's like the Chinese food delivery truck that says "we delivery."
Yeah. Oh, there's
just so many of them.
Yeah, I wish I could think of some off the top of my head, but yeah.
So that's kind of where I'm thinking right now. That if you want to be the most hardcore existentialist, who says to themselves, "I want to turn meaning to 11." Well, if you want to turn meaning to 11, then you get no technology other than the technology you make. Or the technology you make. So you go out to the woods. You have no knife. You must smelt your own ore and create a knife. I will tell you something. You will never lose that knife.
Yeah, we used to talk about that.
We talk about the spoons. right? The spoon that Matt gave me.
Yep.
And I use it almost every single morning.
Do you?
Almost every, yeah, when I make my Folgers instant coffee.
Oh, the irony.
Oh, the irony of using a handcrafted spoon to make Folgers instant coffee.
Did you realize that?
No, I didn't. But it is.
You're welcome.
But that spoon gets more meaningful every time I use it. Right?
Cool.
The gift economy, the community economy, that's existentialism turned up to 11, and what you're willing to accept is the elements will be harder, sickness will be harder, the food will not taste as good, there will be no instant gratification, but everything will be meaningful. You will have everything, and everything will be meaningful. That's the idea that you will make everything, and you will be happy.
Oh, wow. Right. And that's not going to happen to the majority of the human race. Unless there is like a cataclysmic event that wipes out everything.
It's just
and
too
90%
hard.
of us die. And then the resilient ones.
I don't know. You know, I look at it, late stage capitalism has already won. Like there's no money in making handmade spoons and giving them to your friend.
And there probably shouldn't be.
No, there should not be.
Yeah.
No, so
it's like our big problem with Web 3.0. It's like, oh, cool, we get to get rid of these middlemen. That's awesome. We get to get rid of the gatekeepers, the tool and their assets to bring up one of our other episodes. But then at the same time, you have this gnarly shadow being cast of, okay, well now everything is monetized.
Everything.
Now everything is an exchange being documented that you can keep track of. And it's like, wait, is that better? Like, do I want the middlemen back now?
Yes, you do. Yes, you do.
I do.
You miss the middlemen. Trust me, you miss them. You miss having to go to the radio station and turn it on Friday at 9 o'clock to hear the top 10 songs of the week. And you want to be the first one to hear it? Trust me. You had to sit there with your tape recorder to record the song if you really wanted to listen to it over and over again.
You probably made an event out of it. You invited your friends over for pizza or something, and you had more community in it.
That's right.
More meaningful, and it was awesome. And yeah, that's something we've talked about a bunch of times. Or like Blockbuster.
Yeah.
You know, the Blockbuster thing we bring up.
Man, going to Blockbuster was the date.
Yeah, exactly.
It was the date.
And then you pick up the pizza and you go home.
Going back to the whole idea that you cannot own liminal spaces, and money does not provide you with any in some ways, one ought to look at money like a dangerous tool that allows you to like skip. Like, money is a fast forward button.
It speeds things up. It does. Because if you really break down money, it does go back to the barter system. It is barter. It's can we speed up the process here of, well, I have to give him the eggs and then the bananas and then the concrete guy comes and then we figure out how many bananas and eggs he needs, you know.
Right.
But it's supposed to represent that. But then because it's such an abstraction, and then you got like usury and then like all these other things, it starts to move farther and farther away from what it originally was, which was like a tool to speed up trade and make it more efficient. Right.
So like if the U.S. government wanted to get out of the recession tomorrow, all they would have to do is institute 40-year mortgage loans.
Really?
Yep. So
are you running for president? Or
no, that's literally the only thing you have to do.
Chairman of the Federal Reserve?
So let's say your mortgage was a 10-year loan, right?
Okay.
The banks are allowed to loan everybody up to 10 years. Okay? Now let's say that the next 10 years later, you're allowed to loan up to 20% or 20-year loan.
Mm-hmm.
You now have taken 10 years worth of value from the future and you've put it into today.
Okay.
Now if you take a 30-year mortgage, you can buy a house and extract 30 years of your potential earnings to give you access to 30 years worth of whatever that value of that thing is. Oh yeah, a 40-year mortgage allows people to basically it allows that much more influx of money to come into the economy without pain to anybody. But if you keep relying on that, eventually you'll have a 60-year mortgage, which is not theoretically possible that anyone's going to live and pay a mortgage for 60 years on a house.
Right. Yeah, that's ridiculous.
All right. So you keep going until you have infinite mortgages. Well, then this is nobody owns anything.
Well, we need life extensions so we can have 200-year mortgages.
Well, that's what they're doing with all the children's blood.
Oh.
That's so weird, isn't it?
That's actually true. Yeah,
it is true.
That's not QAnon, guys.
No. That's the whole blood economy. It's like billions of
real
dollars.
Thing.
It's
real
weird.
Thing.
So the existential crisis that I'm addressing here today primarily is be very, 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 very careful about which robots you choose to help you. Not because you hate robots, but because you want to be the best you that you can be. And every time you elicit the help of a robot, you are making yourself more codependent, more weak, and more fragile to the world around you.
Okay.
Am I wrong? How does that sound?
It sounds, I'm gonna say extreme,
Fair.
but not necessarily incorrect, and that like maybe a more practical truth is somewhat less harsh. But I'm not disagreeing with you though. I mean, like I don't know if you would need to tell yourself every time you I don't know, went on YouTube or whatever, but maybe you should. I don't know.
Well, 70% of all YouTube content is from suggested. 70% of all watch time, in fact, almost all the people watching here are going to be from suggested content.
I hope so.
So yeah, I think that the world is a very strange place right now. And the weirdest thing is that you get to pick how fragile you are.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah. Sure. Yeah. I guess you didn't really used to pick.
Like every single
so
time
much.
you come home and you default to turning on the TV, that is a declaration of weakness with inability to be around yourself.
Yeah, and that's been here for a while. I mean, before it was algorithmic content suggesting it was mindless channel surfing.
Mindless channel surfing, correct.
My stepdad hated it. If he ever caught me doing that, he'd like turn the TV off, throw the TV guide at me, and he was like, if you want to watch TV, that's fine, but use your brain.
Right.
Like, think about what you want to watch, find out when it's on, decide to watch it, and then turn it off when you're done.
Yeah.
It's like... I always just thought he was being an asshole, but like now I'm like, oh, that's brilliant. Yeah,
that's how I am right now with TV. I have my theater room or whatever. We have like 700 DVDs, right?
Yep.
And if you want to watch TV, great. You go downstairs, you watch TV. Even the TV that like my wife and I have that we'll like say we want to like watch a Netflix show in our bedroom.
Yep.
Our TV is on wheels. We wheel it into the room, we watch TV, and then we wheel it out.
Nice.
So, I just want to say, if you're into the existentialist thing, if you're into the thing, if you've climbed the mountain and you've decided that, yes, the world has meaning, and I am responsible to operate within those terms.
Yep.
Okay, you've made that decision. Great. You're a convert. Next thing to do is to throw out all the existentialist books. You've already agreed to the only tenet you need to agree to. Everything else is meaningless.
I kind of agree with that, because if you get too hung up on being an existentialist and having the books and talking about Sartre and talking about whatever, like I don't want to knock that entirely, but like it's just not as important as actually doing the thing.
You're just not as interesting as the guy that just like
about
sits down and carves his own spoon.
Or if anyone's ever seen Horodowski's The Holy Mountain, you familiar with that one? Oh, We're gonna have to watch that.
All right.
Everyone needs to see that at least once. It's.
Well,
there are no words, but there's a part where there's the holy mountain that you're supposed to climb, and it's very much the existential kind of mountain. And the main character goes through this part where he's meeting all these different avatars, talking about how they're going to climb the mountain, and they're like just in there. And I think they're in this like bar like next to the mountain, and they all have their stories, and they're all like telling them like, oh, we're gonna and they just go on and on and on and on, but they never actually climb the mountain. Yeah, it's definitely reminded me of that.
Yeah.
Bizarre movie.
So if you're there, you climbed it, then you're saying, okay, this is what I think will make my life meaningful. What tools do I need to get where I want to go? Right?
Yep.
Can I make those tools? If you cannot make the tool, purchase the tool.
I like that.
If you can purchase the tool, purchase the one that's manual. Right?
The one with more knobs.
The analog. Yeah.
Sure. Okay.
Purchase the manual one.
Stick shift.
Like you got a coffee grinder. Get the manual. I've got a little hand crank coffee grinder.
Do you?
I do. Yeah. Because you'll just enjoy it more.
Well, and it's probably going to last longer too.
Maybe.
And you might actually be able to fix it.
And so you could say to me, okay, well, Drew, here's the deal. If you use the hand coffee grinder, the quality is not going to be as fine. I actually totally, if all you're concerned with is excellence and output, you are not an existentialist. Because you will understand that what makes you is the flaw that you bring to the thing.
Yeah, and the process and the journey.
That's right. So existentialists, by nature, must actually like hold the vampiric cross to demanding excellence of output.
Interesting.
At any cost.
That is the argument for punk rock and lo-fi and industrial.
And it's a great argument because it's actually music.
Yeah. It's not a flaw, it's a texture. Okay.
It's not a bug, it's a feature.
Well, look at all the kids playing Minecraft because the graphics are objectively horrible compared to like Call of Duty.
Right.
But the kids think it's cool.
Right.
I mean, look at all of the the most like popular hip kind of like video effects, which I like them too. I do. It's like the analog emulation and the scan lines and the VHS, signal degradation, or what is distortion on a guitar? It's actually a bad screwed up signal.
Right.
It's clipping.
Right.
Artfully messing up because you're putting too much energy through a certain threshold, and then the signal it's failure. When you listen to Jimi Hendrix distortion, you're technically listening to.
So to be an existentialist
failure
is actually it's compassionate, like hyper flaws. Like what your goal is to find your truth. The goal is to find your flaw. The thing that is quirky, turn it up to 11, right? And then compassionately, without judgment, say, behold, universe, here is my flaw.
Maybe perfect it in a way.
Well,
is that too far?
No, it's no. That's what I mean about turning it up to 11.
Yeah.
So by learning to exacerbate and learning how to really turn it up, you're being so compassionate to yourself that helps you to accept your flaw, and it gives the flaw meaning, like the guy who smiles with the gap in his teeth.
Mm-hmm.
Right?
Yeah. Own it.
Or the mole on the upper lip, the Marilyn Monroe mole.
Mm-hmm.
Okay? Like, get closer on the mole. But closer. I mean, I don't even want to see lip anymore, just mole. Right? And everyone's going to go, oh, that's Marilyn Monroe's mole.
All right.
Right?
Sure.
Or like a mole with like a quarter of a nose and like red lips. And that's actually art. Not because of the nose and the lips, but because of the mole.
Yeah.
So in the same sort of way, you take your flaw, whatever it might be, you zoom in on it, you turn it up to 11.
Make it your thing. Own it. Sure.
And then you say, this is the perfection is the flaw. Right.
But let me try a little real world analogy.
Sure, why not?
Okay. So you're a fat guy. Okay. And it's flawed, because it's not healthy. Right.
Yeah.
And you're tired of getting picked on for being fat. So one day you go, you know what? I'm going to wear a Hawaiian shirt and some aviators, and I'm going to be the cool, fun, happy fat guy.
I'm going to be Chris Farley.
Yeah, I'm going to be Chris Farley. Okay,
now everybody loves the best fat guy to ever walk the planet.
You love yourself. Things are going great. But in the end, it's the Chris Farley or like the John Popper dilemma. Like, but shouldn't you still want to like be careful with your weight problem, because that could kill you like really, really young. You might die a little young. You might mess up your heart. Maybe you should be still going, okay, this is my flaw, but like I got to keep it.
Okay.
Perhaps.
Yeah, sure, that's fine.
That's the elephant in the room.
So what you're telling me is that Chris Farley or Tom Papa or whatever, what you're telling me is they have
John Popper, remember Blues Traveler?
Yeah.
Right, yeah. He got skinny and then everybody was like, well.
So my question is this. Yeah, well, that's
the fat guy with a harmonica. What happened?
No, there's already there's an entire argument that nobody hates somebody who's really fit. What they hate is a fat guy who's fit.
Right.
Nobody hates somebody who's sober. What people hate is their friend who was a disgusting alcoholic who's sober. Nobody hates a rich guy. What they hate is their poor next door neighbor who became rich.
Right. Envy.
Yes. Yeah, because that
totally.
Person stands.
Makes you less relatable.
That person
reminds you of your flaws that you need to fix. Right.
Yeah. Their existence is an act of judgment upon you about what you could be.
Totally.
Oh yeah. Yeah. Nobody hates those kind of people. And if you find yourself in the position of being envious of somebody in that way, you need to go fix that thing.
Yeah. Totally.
Like that is not okay. So if you find that's not the flaw, you're supposed to enhance. Okay? Like, I think part of the existential dilemma, right? And we talk about picking the terms under which you want to die under, is which flaw do you want to have enhanced? Because I have more than one flaw. All right? So like, I'm an alcoholic. I'm in AA, right?
Right.
If anybody of you are struggling, leave a comment, whatever, shoot me an email. Happy to talk to you.
Sobriety Daily.
Sobriety Daily, yeah.
That's Drew's other.
That's my other YouTube channel that I mess around with sometimes. My point is that my alcoholism, so I tried to redeem it by opening up a whiskey distillery. And I said, here's the deal. I got this. If I win gold medals with my whiskey, then I have redeemed my alcoholism and I've turned it into this thing. I will tell you right now.
You like turning shit into gold, kind of?
Kind of, yeah. Yeah. The point is that no. If you have a flaw and that flaw is destined to kill you if you exacerbate it, that is not the flaw to turn up to 11.
I'm glad we have clarified there.
I like this because people have more than one flaw.
Yeah.
Okay. So I have a flaw, which is I take too many risks.
Okay.
Okay. Now, this is actually something I'm actually actively working with. Should I take my risk-taking personality and should I, instead of toning it down, should I crank it up?
Is this gambler's tilt? Is this just pure foolishness? Or is this existential mastery? Stay tuned.
I mean, we don't know. We don't know. So what my thought is this, is that, okay, so if I hadn't taken financial risks in the last year, I wouldn't be doing poorly now, right? Mm-hmm. So I can look you in the face and say,
Same.
I don't think that it is financial risks that ought to be cranked up.
That's excellent, because I'm going through the exact same thing.
Yeah.
Because I had this epiphany, not epiphany, but just, if that's an epiphany, you know, the other day. And I'm like, do I hate that I'm a risk-taking person, or that I have that? And I'm like, no, I can't hate that.
No.
I can't look in the mirror and say, you moron, you should have went to work in a factory when you were 18 and gotten right to work on your 401k. No, that's not who I am, and I refuse to hate myself for that attribute. But I will absolutely allow myself to correct myself and go, you know, there's going to be a better way. There's going to be much better ways to work with that aspect of yourself than this particular decision that you made earlier this year.
So doing this podcast, doing the podcast more regularly, this is a risk.
This is, or isn't?
It is.
Okay, I just didn't hear. Yeah. Okay.
Yeah. So the way I look at it, like, so we talked about writing. I talked about writing recently. I said I wanted to start writing some more.
Yes.
I recently came
and
to, and I'm starting.
Yeah.
The conclusion I came to recently was that me not writing was actually an expression of self-hate, because I was mad at myself.
That's brilliant. Same here.
And that's why I haven't been creative lately.
I've just the same thing.
I've been like, okay, I'm going to work on the house. I'm going to do anything but reward myself with creativity.
And that's what you should be doing. Anyone struggling with creative block, like I always think about something David Lynch said. He wrote this little novella. I think it's called, Going for the Big Fish or something like that. He writes a lot about his transcendental meditation practices and creativity.
Okay.
And one of the things he says, and I completely agree with him, and I think it's brilliant. And then I don't know how familiar you are with David Lynch, but a lot of what he does is really dark.
Okay.
Really dark and really bizarre stuff. But he himself, the character David Lynch, is like the nicest, coolest, like you would just want to hang out with this guy. Okay. He's so cool. He's so optimistic and not in a cheesy way. He's just such a cool guy. Okay. For real. And he says Vincent van Gogh would have been a better artist if he wasn't depressed and chopped his ear off.
Would have been better.
Yeah, he would have been better. And then Lynch is a very dark artist, right? But like he's like, I can't stand this idea of like creativity as like self-punishment, or like creativity is an expression. It's like the ultimate expression. It's good. It should make you feel good. It should make you love yourself. And so for those people that are really sick, yeah, it does make them feel good to be creative. But it's like you don't necessarily need that sickness to bring that creativity out of you. It's just that it happened to be that way for those people. Right. And sometimes people in artistic communities, they idolize that sort of thing. You go to jazz school, then you start shooting heroin because Miles Davis did it, and that's freaking absurd. Right. Yeah. So what I realized is that I was not being creative. I was preventing myself from any creativity. Like, screw you, you don't deserve to be creative. And I think that that's the other side of that coin, right? You can hurt yourself by saying, "Oh, I need to be in a dark place to generate creativity." Yeah, or maybe but like your shadow, so to speak, is sort of tricking you into that. No, I've had like big, huge bursts of creativity, and I always know when I have a creative burst because I'll have some phrase that will just linger in my brain for like a week, and it's a short story or something waiting to get out. And a lot of times, I will not go to my computer and I will not write that sentence. Because I don't deserve it. I'm not good enough to do that. I can relate. And so sit down and you're like, I've got this hook in my head, and no, I'm not going to go record it. I don't deserve it. That's masochistic. It is masochistic. And it's the kind of masochism where it might be occluded to you. It's shadowy. Like you don't really realize it necessarily. That's what you're doing. That you're actually just punching yourself in the nutsack. It's a terrible idea. It's not good. So this falls in line with the whole point of, like we could write a book at this point called "So You Decided to Become an Existentialist," right? We should start. We could do like a children's book.
So you decide, hey, everybody, I see you've decided to become an existentialist. Well, come on over. Would you like a taco?
Leave the
you
kid-
would. Go kill the cow, ground up the beef, grow some tomatoes, milk it, get some cheese, go grow some corn, get me a tortilla, and then make yourself a damn taco.
Leave those damn kids alone, Drew.
That is exactly what the Existentialist How to Make a Taco book would sound like, too.
Maybe. Yeah.
But now you've got a problem because now you're making tacos for so many people. So what you could have done is just brought a chicken and traded me the chicken for the chicken. All right, so
shut it down.
All right, so that's all we're talking about here. If you do not decide that as an existentialist, I must stop reading, start creating, realize that there's something in me that stands moderately contrary to the world around me that is beautiful. Like a flower stands contrary to its surroundings. That's why it's beautiful.
Preach. Can I get an amen?
Amen. So once you find out the thing that makes you stand out, that also makes you kind of beautiful, that's the flaw that you turn to 11.
I love it. And I think that's a good spot to end today.
I agree.
It's a strong, powerful ending.
It's a strong ending. Well, I'm Drew.
I'm Bryan. Please like and subscribe. Talk to us in the comment section. You can talk to us, you know? We're at that point. Come have a discussion with us. We'd love to
I
talk
think we would
to
like
you.
that.
We will bring up your comments in an episode.
Yeah.
That's something we can do. You know, we'll
All
talk
right.
to you directly.
Thank you guys for coming over from r/existentialism.
Oh, yes.
We do appreciate it.
Thanks for not banning that post, mods.
And we will get out of here. We have been the Men Who Stare at Cups, live from Phoenix Ridge Studios.
Have a meaningful day.
Yes,
It's like some kind of curse.
indeed. May your days of your life be meaningful.
Oh, no.